Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday out there and happy Labor Day weekend. I know it's been a while, so I do apologize about that. Unfortunately, kind of going towards the end of this past week, I got really caught up in some schoolwork as well as some actual work there for a little while. So, unfortunately, I really could just not find time to get a video out. But we're back to the weekend now, and I've had a bit of a break from all the crazy things going on in life, so I'm back with another video for you all. Now, in today's video, we don't really have too much to talk about, which I'm sure is kind of a welcome sign for a lot of folks as we head on into the start of September here and try to really just get through our Labor Day weekend with overall a pretty quiet pattern. Now, going on ahead into time throughout the next week or two, it does look like things pick up a bit, especially in the tropics where we could see quite a strong hurricane out getting into the Atlantic, and that could potentially pose a threat to some people, but we'll talk about who and if anybody really at all could be impacted by that storm. Now, with all that said, let's go ahead and jump into your forecast here because, again, I don't want to take up too much of your time. So, taking a look at satellite imagery right now, pretty similar story from what we've seen the past couple of days. It has been really nice as the sun is setting here along the east coast of the United States. Really just some very high-level cirrus clouds, a couple cumulus clouds out there, but overall, really nice weather. And honestly, that kind of extends all the way out into the plains as well, as we've had just kind of this big area of high pressure kind of dominating the pattern. Now, that high pressure is going to break down a little bit and shift off to the east a little over the next couple of days, and that is going to allow the return of some more humid and uncomfortable summertime air to the eastern United States. But overall, still really nice weather. Now, taking a look at kind of radar imagery as well as those watches and warnings out there, again, it has been really nice, pretty much dry for just about everyone outside of kind of some of these Gulf Coast states down here from areas of Dallas back towards Little Rock, down towards Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and even over towards Montgomery and Birmingham, seeing some shower activity, but overall, again, very nice. And as for us on the East Coast, a whole lot of nothing going on out there. Now, it is still hot for some folks. We do have a couple heat advisories, but overall, pretty relaxed compared to what we've seen other times this year where we've had kind of almost the entire eastern half of the country in those advisories. Right now, again, really just kind of minimal impacts from that heat, with most of the active weather right now staying back out west where we have some more stormy weather back towards Nevada as well as Utah. Alright, so let's go ahead and run you through the next couple of days here, and again, it's going to be a lot more of the same, although as we go ahead into time here, expect a bit of an increase in storm chances as well as an increase in that muggy weather, but as for rain, still not a whole lot. Going into your Labor Day afternoon, this is tomorrow about 4 o'clock, just in time for any kind of barbecues you might be having out there. Really, I think the best chance of rain will be kind of here just west of the Mississippi River into kind of places like Louisiana and Arkansas. Now, the main reason for that really just because of the placement of this high pressure. As that begins to kind of get a little bit weaker and scoot off to the east a little bit more, we're going to get a little bit more of that southerly flow around it, and that could help to increase the chance for some showers back out towards that section of the country. Now, as we go past that a little bit into our Tuesday afternoon, kind of starting back into the next work week, again, more of the same, kind of on the outer periphery, if that's a word, peripheral, maybe that's a better word. What I'm trying to say is the edge of this high pressure, kind of around the edge of it is where we will see the better chance of those showers and storms continue. But again, for anyone here in the eastern half of the country, really east of the Appalachian chain especially, but really just east of the Mississippi River, still very dry out there, although becoming more humid as we go through this week. And you'll notice as we go kind of into the middle of this week, into later on Tuesday, overnight, and into our Wednesday, that's when our next storm system begins to kind of crank up out here into the plains. And with that, a pretty impressive line of storms could begin to slowly work its way east and bring more active weather into the pattern going into kind of the middle and end of the week ahead. Now, as for dew points, again, it's been relatively comfortable out there, but that will change slowly over the next couple of days. So going into tomorrow afternoon, you'll notice dew points getting back up into the 70s for just about everyone here east of the Mississippi River. And of course, once we have that 70-degree mark in the dew points, that's really when things start to get more uncomfortable. So that will definitely make a pretty big return to the pattern. And going into our Tuesday afternoon, again, those dew points continue to climb as well as those temperatures. Now, the one good news is, again, we will have a cold front that will kind of begin to try to work its way on through going into the middle of the week. So behind that, there will be some relief from that heat and more fall-like weather for some folks. So again, going to have to get through at least the first half of this week for most of us, but there will be some signs of relief going into the later half of this week ahead. Now, as for your Labor Day itself, I might have said Memorial Day multiple times in this video, by the way. If I have, sorry, but your Labor Day, again, overall, pretty warm, although not too unseasonably warm, except for maybe some folks out here into the plains where it's a bit warmer. But as for us in the East Coast, overall, relatively pretty much what you would expect this time of year going into Labor Day. Alright, so running you through the week ahead, kind of past the next couple of days. Again, we showed you what's going to happen now through about Tuesday, Wednesday. Once we get a little bit further past there, again, this is that next storm system we're going to have to watch, and that will likely move through the Midwest, but tailing behind that some cooler weather, and with that, also a mechanism to fire off some storms. So this will definitely have some forced convection with it as it moves across the Mississippi River Valley going into later Tuesday into Wednesday, and then eventually as we get into our Wednesday and Thursday, those rain chances once again increase for much of us here in the eastern half of the country. So again, dry for most of us now through the middle of the week, but it's that second half of the week that those storm chances will once again increase with that next storm system, and eventually that will try to cross through as we go through kind of this weekend. That should finally cross the Appalachian chain, and behind it a bit of a nicer air mass. And just to show that to you a little bit, we'll take a look at our dew point map here, which I did not load ahead of time, but I will go ahead and load that now for you. Again, it's going to be pretty muggy over the next couple of days, but as that next storm system comes through, that's going to help to beat down those dew points once again going into this weekend. So by the time we get into, for example, this coming Sunday, you'll notice definitely some relief here behind that, with dew points getting back down into the 60s and 50s even for some folks as that nicer air mass kind of moves on in. But of course, it won't last forever, as once again we'll likely see another uptick in the humidity. So definitely have to watch out for that. Now, as for the long run, again, I think this is going to be a pattern we kind of get into of shots of these cold fronts moving on through, and it's getting to that time of the year now where that Arctic air tries to kind of slowly work its way further south into the northern hemisphere as we kind of get closer towards that fall equinox. So going 6 to 10 days out, again, I think we'll get shots of cooler air down, definitely, but unfortunately for most of us, still a bit above average, especially out west. The best chance of seeing those cool downs will be kind of into the Great Lakes and Northeast, and also the potential of some backdoor cold fronts getting down behind that Appalachian chain and helping us down into the southern mid-Atlantic as well. So we'll definitely be rooting for that and pulling for that as we go through September, as I'm sure a lot of us are getting ready for that more fall-like air going forward. As for precipitation over the next 6 to 10 days, again, if we continue to get some of these storm systems to cross the country, that will definitely bring an increased chance of precipitation out into the plains, as well as the East Coast. If we get any kind of backdoor fronts to try to move on through, that could also help to cause some precipitation that way. But overall speaking, nothing too out of the ordinary in the precipitation map here for the next 6 to 10 days. And as for the next 3 days, again, really dry for most of us, and likely not a drop of rain for just about everyone east of the Mississippi for the next 3 days. But again, as that high pressure kind of, if my pin will work here, as the high pressure continues to kind of move east a bit, watching out for that kind of edge of it as we get a little bit more of that Gulf moisture to advect northward, and of course could cause the start of some precipitation. And again, any storm systems that cross up through here, through the northern tier of the country, will also bring some rain. But really, I think we're going to be dry for most of us until we get through about that Wednesday time frame and moving on from there. All right, so that's what we're seeing back home this week. How about the tropics? It is September after all, and we've just had a crazy week of tropical weather. So let's look ahead into time. Now, there are a couple things going on out here. We've got a couple leftover tropical cyclones or post-tropical cyclones out here in the Atlantic. All of these are kind of really just having a party out in the middle of no man's land, and will slowly begin to work their way out to sea or just kind of stay there and dissipate. The bigger story right now is going to be this guy out into the Atlantic. This is Invest 95, and this is very likely to become a strong hurricane as it works off generally towards the United States, but really towards kind of the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and eventually maybe into sections of kind of this area between Bermuda and the Bahamas. So that's the long run with that guy, and he's really going to be the main story. And there's another wave coming off of Africa in the next couple of days. That one also has the potential to kind of potentially produce some trouble. So taking a look at the actual map from the National Hurricane Center here, again, this is 95L. This is running a 90% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone over the next 7 days. So that could happen anytime from now to the time it kind of moves out towards the northern end of the Lesser Antilles about a week from now. So definitely watching that. Again, these two storms out here, our G named storm and our K named storm, kind of just likely to dissipate over the next couple of days. And then, of course, that next area to watch behind 95L, although not really that much data we have on that one right now, mainly because it just hasn't even hit the water yet. So I don't want to jump the gun with that. So looking at 95L here, again, a general track likely to bring this generally towards the Lesser Antilles, but likely north of there. And we have pretty good consensus in our models here that that will be the track that this takes. So we'll definitely watch out for that. And that looks to be the most likely scenario. Now, as for what happens, in the long run with this storm, again, very likely to develop, especially once we get into the middle of this week and into later this week ahead, very likely to become a tropical cyclone. And just watch this kind of area I have circled on the map, or this L. That is the area that we're going to be watching to become our next named storm. And as we move this ahead, again, the European model here begins to deepen that, begins to even strengthen it into quite a strong hurricane as we get into about next weekend. And by that time, again, it'll be out near the Lesser Antilles, and also by this time we'll know a lot more. But the good news is most of our models right now do bring this relatively close to the Antilles, Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, and the Bahamas. But it's very far out there, but right now most of the models begin to kind of recurve this out to sea. Now, I don't want to, shut the door on this and say, hey, that's what's going to happen, because again, this is still 10 to 15 days away from reaching the United States if it is able to. And as we know, the weather sometimes can change on a dime, let alone 10 to 15 days out. So definitely going to need to watch this guy, especially since the models are very bullish on the idea of this becoming quite a strong hurricane. The European model here gets this thing down into the 940s. That would very easily be a major hurricane, and anytime it's this close to populated areas and also the United States as a whole and moving in that general direction, we definitely want to keep all eyes on that. So honestly, that'll really be kind of our big story over the next couple of days and really through the next week or two as that slowly works its way back towards the United States. But other than that, we're really just kind of looking towards fall, a couple cold fronts coming on through over the next week or two. That will definitely help to bring in a bit more of that festive season, if you will. And I at least know personally myself am looking very forward to that. With that said, though, again, I appreciate y'all watching today and hanging in there with me as I still kind of transition into the start of school here. But I'm definitely happy I was able to get a video out for you today. With that said, though, have a great rest of your Labor Day weekend, and I will see you all next time.